In the Gilded Age, many Native Americans were running away from their tribes in order to try and survive. When Native Americans were put on reservation land by the United States government, there was not enough resources in order to survive. This is when many Native Americans began running away. When they ran away, many began to freeze due to it being cold in the mountains. It was also known that many Native American adults and children were freezing to death and starving due to them not having a permanent home to keep warm and fed. Many tribes have lost all of their old men. They have died due to them suffering. In the lecture, Dr. Hossein explained to us how the Dawes Act in 1887 affected many Native Americans by allowing the United States government to break up reservations, tribes, and removing them from their own homeland. The United States government would do this to the Native Americans in order for them to adapt agricultural ways and start to adapt more white ways, such as the way they dressed and acted, hoping they would change their traditional ways and forget about their Native American culture. Many Native Americans were tortured and humiliated, and to this day, many Native Americans, adults and children, are still suffering due to their ancestors being sent to boarding schools. One of the things Native Americans were doing in order for the children to be successful while they were older in the United States was sending them to boarding school, in which they learned to adapt white ways. These children were forced to forget about their culture and return back to the reservation and teach others what they have learned, in which was white ways. Many Native Americans that were affected are now suffering due to them not practicing their culture beliefs, since their ancestors were taught white ways, and that is what they have taught their children now. And the teaching ways continued throughout each generation. Chief Joseph fought for the rights of the Nez Perce by going to Washington and pleading to be treated equally, such as other white American men. Chief Joseph was a Native American leader in the tribe of Nez Perce. He was born in Wallowa Valley, known as Indian Territory. Born in March 3rd, 1840, son of old Chief Joseph and Kap Onini. He then passed away September 14th, 1904, in the Colville Indian Reservation, trying to make his way back home along with his tribe. The population of the Nez Perce back in 1804 was 6,000 Native Americans. The population over the years, of course, has increased. Nez Perce is mainly to be known from north-central Idaho. It was also known that the religion and beliefs of the Nez Perce tribe was animism. Animism is one believes natural things such as mountains, rivers, trees, plants, etc., having spirits and souls. His testimony to General Miles show how angered he was on how the United States government treated Native Americans. Chief Joseph, the leader of the Nez Perce tribe, is an example of a Native American who has suffered during the Gilded Age. Chief Joseph, along with his tribe, have been treated unfairly by the United States government. They have all been pushed out of their home, cornered 40 miles away from the border of Canada. Chief Joseph was with his tribe when his children were running away, and he was seeing them suffer, each one by one, slowly dying in his arms. This is when he had enough. Chief Joseph was upset at the United States government since they were breaking their promise to treat Native Americans equal and to let them return home safely and move them out of their land with no resources provided to them when it had been promised it would be. Chief Joseph gave a speech on how the United States government convinced tribes that they were on their side. He explained how the Nez Perce tribe became friends with Lewis and Clark, in which are two white men. Lewis and Clark gifted the Nez Perce tribe many cool gifts. Of course, they were going to think Lewis and Clark were their friends. They even made dinners in order to show that these two white men, that the Native Americans had good hearts and were welcoming into their tribe. Both traded horses due to the United States needing them. In return, the Native Americans got tobacco and guns. Little did they know things would turn out such as they wanted to. The white men asked the Native Americans to never make war with them, and since they were friends, Nez Perce allowed them to pass through their country, not knowing how they will be treated, poorly and unfair. Chief Joseph, along with other Native American tribes, tell us the United States government broke their promises, although they didn't. Chief Joseph's lives has showed us how all Native Americans were living during this time due to him suffering along with them. Native Americans were being forced into reservations and being forced to adapt white farming ways, all by the United States government. The United States government was selling their land even though the Native Americans were promised they'd receive all of their land in return once they were able to return back home. A lot of the tribe leaders lost their children due to them suffering by starving and freezing to death. The life of innocent children and people were being completely changed and controlled by the United States government. Native Americans not being able to do much due to them not having as much power as the United States.